Hello, EDUC 2220 students. I hope everyone had a great long weekend and you are ready to begin this week. So I wanted to make this video to go over your requirements for your service learning project. So as you are aware, and hopefully you've read through the Getting Started module, you will see that this course requires a high impact practice called service learning. So each student is required to complete 12 hours of service learning and also required to complete a written component that goes along with that. So I just wanted to jump in and show you kind of where to find this information, what you need to do to get you started, because there are some requirements as far as before we can get you into the classroom that you have to turn in some things or some things you have to do. So if you have already read through Getting Started module, there is a section called Course Projects and Service Learning. That is where you will click to get to our course projects and the service learning component. So when you click on that, go ahead and hit service learning. It'll take you right there. The best way to navigate through this course is through the table of contents, and that will be found under course information and select content. Now you will see here that you have to be approved in a location or a school system. There are some guidelines and policies that you must abide by. You will be completing an application, and that application is going to be in one the application is going to allow the service learning coordinator to place you hopefully in your first choice, but we have some MOUs in place with the following areas that I have listed here. So these are the schools and systems that we currently have available that we work with and partner with, that we place students in for service learning. So on your application, obviously whenever we're doing service learning, we want you to put on your application your first choice, your second choice, your third choice. So just keep in mind like locating, your schedule, your time, those kinds of things to keep in account. Now, I did want to note that you will put your first number one choice, your second, and your third. The service learning coordinator is responsible for placing our education students. She will do her best to accommodate you and put you in your approved one of the approved locations. However, sometimes things might happen. That's why we say, okay, give us a second and third choice as well. So there are schools that will require additional approval by the central office personnel. That those two counties are Sevier and Jefferson counties. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you are wanting to work in a school system or a site inside of Claiborne County or Hawkins, um, there will be there's a requirement for administrative contact from our department to their central office. So those may take a little bit longer. So remember, just get those applications in as soon as possible. Now, the service learning application is due to Teams by September 4th, and you've already seen that if you've opened up and went into the course. So please look at that. Now, if you are selecting Claiborne County or Hawkins County, please list your preference on the application and we will convey that to the administration contact as soon as possible. Again, it's a request. It's not meaning that you will get there. Now, if you are going to be in Claiborne County or you are wanting to be placed at Douglas Cherokee Economic Authority, they require an additional background check of all their own. Okay, this is in addition to the TBI, so you will have two background checks. If you are wanting to be in Claiborne County, you have to pass that background check with Claiborne County Schools to be placed there. So just that's something to keep in mind. Okay. So if you scroll under, I'm going to kind of go through this quickly. You need to read this whole module, and hopefully you've already looked at it by now because we're already in our second week and we don't want to get behind with placements because this takes time. So the first section here is just the contacts of the Boys and Girls Club of Smoky Mountains. Now, this is the only one that we have an MOU in place with. You may not go to any others aside from this, but those are the contact information that you will have to reach out to get your referral confirmation complete. and to speak to someone about being placed there if you get the okay. Now, here's more information specifically about the service learning sites. So you'll see them all here. I put the same information. Now, you are welcome to list specific requests. However, keep in mind again, this is only a request. We work with many students. The service learning coordinator has a lot of students to place. We work with a lot of systems. We follow their guidelines. So the earlier you turn in your service learning application and all the application process documents, the better chance we have at securing your placement. So just keep that in mind. Now, before you begin your service learning and get the green light, you must have a green light. There are things that you must complete in order to be placed. You will have to complete, obviously, your application, which is due this week, this Thursday, September 4th. It must be submitted to Teams. You must also complete the VECHS waiver form. You will complete a hold harmless acknowledgement of risk. You will secure proof of liability insurance. This could be through NEA membership. This could be STA. This could be AON. So you have some choices available to you. You also have to complete a background check through TBI. And then lastly, once all those components are complete, you will submit what we call a referral confirmation form, is where the principal or the school you're at, the director, the site that you want to participate in, will sign, as well as the mentor teacher, saying that it's okay for you to complete your hours. And that's the last piece that will be submitted before you can be placed and get your green light. Now, if you begin your hours before any of this is completed or submitted, or before you get the green light, none of those hours are going to count. So just keep that in mind. So the written components that you will be completing, aside from your 12 hours, is that you will be completing a journal. So the journals have to follow the guidelines. I have the link here. You will need to read that document before you begin your hours, as you will have something that we call a prologue, which is something you must write prior to your experience of starting your 12 hours. The last steps of service learning is once you complete your hours, your mentor teacher will evaluate you. There is something we call closing documents. They will evaluate you um, as far as how you did, and those documents will be sent to me via email. And once you finish your hours, you will let me know, and then I will put up there like the email I want it to come to. You can bring it to me in a sealed envelope, drop it off in my box on my door. Um, Mail it could be mailed through school mail, like, and I will be posting that information so everyone will know that you are not going to be submitting that. Your teacher will, your mentor teacher. And then lastly, you will complete what we call a service learning written analysis, which is the reflection component of your entire experience. Now, I did have an overview video here. It is older. A lot of information is still the same, but I wanted to make a new one just to kind of go through. I also have the description of service learning and the service learning manual, which shows the guidelines and expectations, so you should read that. Now, I do have a checklist, which is really good because this checklist is a document that follows the action items in the order that you should be completing them. Okay, so it's a checklist for you. So I'm going to, when you click on it, it will open up. So you'll see here, the first thing that you need to do is you will have to join Teams, okay? Microsoft Teams. There's a specific team you're going to join. It's called the Service Learning Team for 2025, fall 2025. And this is the code that you're going to join. It's important for you to realize that you cannot submit any documents into our course except your journal and your written analysis. Everything else will be submitted to Teams. The reason that we do this is because the service learning coordinator does not have access to my class. She cannot get in our course and look at our documents. So because of that, we have to put all of our service learning documentation into Teams so she could look at it. So you have to first join with this code, And then you'll see here, once you join, you can submit your documents. Okay. Now there's a place in our service learning module in our course that explains how do you join teams. There's um, a section that shows you how do you upload to Teams. So it walks you through how do you submit things, how do you join. That way you can make sure you get your documents in there. And I'll show you that in a moment. Now, you'll see here next to each document the date that it's due. So your service learning application is the first thing that you will submit after joining. It is due this Thursday, the September 4th. You also need to submit your service learning hold harmless acknowledgement of risk. That's September 11th next week. Proof of liability insurance is due by September 18th. And then you also have to complete your VECHS waiver form, which is part of your background check form by September 18th. Now, I would suggest to you that I'm encouraging you strongly to get these things done before these due dates. This is why I mentioned earlier the service learning coordinator has lots of students to place. So the quicker that you get these in, the quicker chance you have of securing your placement, right? And everything has a due date. So these are the forms that will be submitted to teams. Now, once you get all these things completed, okay, I will say, okay, your service learning referral confirmation form can be submitted. So that means you're going to reach out to the school. I'm going to say you were approved at this placement school. This is where you're going to be. Please reach out to your mentor, teacher, and principal. And you will take this form to them and get them to sign it, and then it will be submitted to teams. Now, this form is due October 23rd. I do not suggest you wait that long. This is why. Even though 12 hours doesn't seem long, it's kind of hard to get a schedule where it meshes up with you and the mentor teacher you're with. We always tell students do not go do your hours when they are on a field trip or anything out of the ordinary is happening. We want you to see the day to day routines, things that are actually going on, not any special events, because this is important for you to get the day to day routine in those specific classrooms. Now, one thing also to note is that you will be placed inside of a special education setting, meaning it will be a CDC classroom or a resource room. Since this is a special education course, you will need to be placed in a special education setting. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, once you have the service learning referral confirmation form completed and it's accepted by service learning coordinator, then you will be given the green light. I will email you that. I will say, congratulations, you may begin your hours. Please keep in mind, any hours that you do before you get the green light from me, they will not count towards your 12 hours of service learning and you will have to redo them. So just keep that in mind. Now, the final actions to be completed are 5 and 6. So once you've completed your 12 hours, you will have that service learning final evaluation, and there is a log that will be kept. Okay, so every time you go into the classroom, you will have a log that logs your hours. It will have to be initialed by you and the mentor teacher. You will put in there what you did that day, whether it was working with a student or just observing. Those two documents are called closing documents. They will be sent by your mentor teacher. So she could email them to me, she could mail them out to the school, or they could be sealed and you can hand deliver them to me yourself or drop them in my door in my office. So there's lots of ways to get them to me. You will not submit these to teams and you will not submit the closing documents in the course. The only things that will be submitted to the course is going to be the service learning journal and the written analysis. The service learning coordinator has nothing to do with these two pieces. This is the written portion of your assignment, of your whole placement. So just keep that in mind. So that checklist is there to guide you through. So make sure you download it and use it. Okay, so here you see underneath the checklist is a video showing you how to join a team with a join code, and there's the join code that you're going to need. That's also on the checklist. Also, there is a document that shows you step by step how do you upload something to your server, to your Teams One notebook. Okay, now There is a service learning coordinator. Her name is Jessica Meals. There is her contact information should you have any specific questions. Also, you may email me because I'm your instructor, so please feel free to reach out as well. There's also the service learning closing documents, which we mentioned, which is going to be your final evaluation as well as your log. You will need your log every time you go in to do any hours for service learning. That will be submitted as well. Now, there underneath is the list of things we've talked about. These are what we call the pre-service learning documents, meaning that you have your checklist to help you and your timetable so you can keep on point of when these things are due. You will have a document if you're not sure how to put something into Teams. You have the VECHS waiver we talked about. You have your service learning application. You have your service learning release hold harmless form. Now, there are additional things that have to be done. As I mentioned, you will have to have a background check. This is a TBI background check. So, background checks are only good for 1 calendar year, meaning say you had a background check done in January because last spring you had another education course that required service learning. That would still be good because you're still falling within that 1 year, 1 calendar year. If you had a background check done 2 years ago, it would not count. You still have to get a new background check. Okay. Now, if you work in a school system and you had a background check, say you started working at a school in March or April or even this summer, um, we would accept the background check for them as long as it falls within that 1 year. And what you'll do is you will email me when you had it done for what school system you work at or what school you work, what district and county, and then I will email you what we call an employer verification form. That form will be filled out on behalf of your employer. They will say this is your start date. You are employed by us when your background check was completed, and that will take the place. And that will be submitted to Teams under VECHS. Now, liability, I mentioned you have several options. I will be sending an email out about STA along with the flyer. STA is Student Teacher Educated Educator Association. And what that means is it falls under Tennessee Educator Association. And you will be allowed, it not only covers your insurance, it also allows you to be a member and you can get journals and you have some perks of being a member of that. Also, if you join STA, you will be automatically able to come to our STA club here at Water State that we have in the education department. And you will be able to go to those meetings and not be charged for that as well. So there are some perks to becoming an STEA member. Like I said, there will be a separate email sent out to the whole class with a link to STA. We will have a flyer for our STA club. So all that information will be listed there. Now, if you don't want to join STA, you have Aon Insurance, which you can purchase through our Water State Cashier's office. We do have the information here for you. One thing I did want to note, whenever you go to the cashier's office, you will just bring this form. You will have your name, your student ID. It costs $13. They should give you a receipt. You will take a picture of that receipt and you're going to email it to teacheredbackground@ws.edu and it will come to us and we will show that you have proof. Excuse me, you have proof. You also need to make sure that you get some kind of receipt showing that you have purchased the liability insurance. Okay, so just make sure you're aware of that. Now, if you are as far as a finger, I'm gonna go back up for a second. You will see here you have the link to STA to join under a National Education Association or TEA. They're under the same umbrella, or the link to the Water State Cashier's office and the number. For the background check, if you're scheduling a background check, I have the link that shows you the locations and how to schedule. You will schedule with Identigo. So that link is there. Just make sure that when you're in there, you're following the code exactly. There is a Water State ORR code, ORI code. It has to be entered exactly the correct way because that's going to let us be able to find your results with TBI. So make sure you really read that document and follow the directions exactly like it says when you're scheduling your background check. If you get stuck or have questions, please reach out. And then there's the service learning referral confirmation. Remember, you're not going to complete this until I email you saying that you've been placed at whatever school or site. And then again, there's the closing documents that you will need. And then here are your written documents and journal. Please read the journal. And like I said, you will have a prologue that you will have to start and write before you even begin your service learning placement. So read through that. And then lastly, you will do your written analysis. So remember, these written assignments are the only things that will be submitted to our course under Dropbox. Everything else goes inside of Teams. Okay. So this is a lot on your part that you've got to get through before you can even be placed. That's why I said go ahead and get started now. I have went in, I do have access to the teams where you're going to be submitting your things. I've seen some students, just a few, have already joined with the code. There's several that have not. Please make that your first thing that you do this week is to join the teams and complete your application for service learning. That's going to be due on the 4th. All right, I know this was a lot. Your job is to, after you watch this video, to go through everything and join the teams and start getting these documents knocked out and submitted. As always, reach out if you have any questions. All right, I'm so excited for your placements and for your service learning experience. I look forward to talking to you real soon. Take care.